I need to have wire clippers. Wire clippers that I can carry around in my case, so I don't leave them at home.
Little tiny ones.
Yeah, you don't need much. This is a little bridge pin puller. I got it at Schoenberg's guitar shop many years ago. Anything that will pull the bridge pins out. That very often the bridge pins are stuck. You have to pry them in some way. These are not great to use. You can just jimmy them up, but you risk hurting the bridge or cutting through the bridge pins. So something like this is really helpful. And the way I start, I do one string at a time. I don't use a table or any of that stuff. And I loosen up the low E string. Now what you'll notice here is the way the string is wound, and I will show you how to wind them. But the way the string is wound, it comes right off. I unwind it to a certain point. I don't need a little winding tool. I don't know why those things were invented. And then you just pull it off. It's not knotted. It's not wrapped around itself in any kind of way that you have to undo it. There are things that you see on YouTube where people are showing, okay, wind it and then tuck it under itself. I did that for years, and then somebody said, why are you doing that? It works out the same way if you don't. So I started doing it his way, and it works perfectly. So,
And it never slips.
no,
Never slips.
no, it doesn't fit. There's so much pressure on the string when you wind it right. So I'm going to see. Okay, this just pulls right out. If it didn't pull out, here's what I do. Slip this thing under here, and just use that to pull out the bridge pin. And then my routine is I put the used string someplace out of the way. And these strings, all the D'Addario strings now come in these kind of eco packages, which are kind of nice. They keep the strings fresh, whatever the plastic is, and they're all wound up. So you get two strings together, and they're color coded. I haven't learned my color code yet, but it starts with the brass one. So that's the low E string. This is where it's dangerous. These things fly. So if you get now I do this. I lay the string I'm going to use next beside me, so it's not hard to find and it's not on the floor. That sounds crazy, but you'd be amazed how easy it is to mess that up.
So what's on the floor is a discard?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm seating the bridge pin. So
Are those slotted?
no, these aren't slotted.
Mine are slotted, so what would I do with it?
Same basic thing.
Do I aim the slot toward the string?
Yeah, you're putting the string down in the hole and basically pulling it up until you feel it kind of catch against the pin. With a slotted pin, it may pull up and then slide up the slot a little bit. But basically you're just trying to get it seated. Then I push a little bit on the bridge pin, not a lot, but enough that it won't just fly out. Then, the way that I do it, what they show is they turn the hole for some reason, not exactly sure why, to be like north to south on the headstock. I actually do it this way. I make it be perpendicular to the way the headstock is going, partially to remind myself you want to come from the inside of the headstock. You see how these are all coming from the inside, turning around to the outside. So the way that I do it, what they show is go up to the next pin and that's enough string and then cut it. Well, I'm not going to cut it until I'm sure I've done it right. I've done this thing a little drunk too many times and cut the string, and then I really regret it because then I did it wrong. So all I do is get about a finger's amount of slack there, maybe a little more, just enough, because I'm going to wind it like twice. You see, it doesn't
You
take.
can't have too much.
No, because it's going to wind too many times. There's no reason to do it that way. So here's the crucial part. This is the part that seems to be confusing, but it's all you really need to keep in mind. I am winding, I never know how to call it, the part that's already gone through the tuning peg. goes under the string that you're wrapping. So the string that I'm wrapping goes over this. Okay, so it goes over first, and then it will go under. It really is simple, but now, oh, and I do this too. I get the string out of the way, because this is where it is actually dangerous. And I might be kind of stupid to keep it. But I don't see the sense in cutting it until you know where you're at. So as it tightens down, it will drop into the slot. And then I begin to tighten it down. Now as it tightens down, because this part is underneath that first part, this will now come up against the string that's being wound. So the extruding end of the string will then go over. So it goes under first and then over. And I didn't put enough string on it, but the fact is, if you look at how this is wound, this is really tight. And the string is pulling up against the part that's wound. It's not going to go anywhere. And I play hard, and it doesn't go anywhere. So I use the existing strings to get it in the ballpark. And then I tune it a little bit sharper so that it can stretch a little bit. Then I cut it. And I cut it close to the edge so that these aren't sticking up. These can really hurt you bad. So then I cut it close and take the other part on the floor. And then that just repeats. I'm going to add a little more string to show you the wind on the second string. But it's really not hard.
So like anything more than two and less
Two,
than
yeah, two or
four,
three. I
five?
mean, yeah, with these treble strings, it's like 3 winds underneath, just how it works out. It's not crucial, but you see how easy this comes off. Once it gets loose enough, you just pull it over itself and yank out the remainder. So in this case, the pin is kind of sticking. So I'm going to stick it underneath there and yank it out. So I don't know about finding these. These are often on the ends of the string winder things. And I'm not sure where else to find it, but anything that will do that. So what they often say is bend this a little bit so that you're providing an angle. So I'm dropping it into the hole, and I'm kind of pulling as I drop it in so that it catches against the pin. So there's pressure against the pin, and then I push the pin in slightly. And then I just repeat the whole process. And I'm making the hole perpendicular so that I am literally making the string go from the middle to the outside at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to add a little extra string this time so I can definitely show you why. And then as I'm turning the peg away from, like, toward the back of the guitar so that it winds in this direction. I think that's what people get confused about too. And it's the reverse on the other side.
So you're always winding front to back?
We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't actually know a rule. But you're doing it so that you're winding it so that the string in your hand goes over the first piece of string.
It goes over the first kind of automatically, and then it automatically starts going under.
Yeah, and then as it winds around, you begin to aim it towards the nut slot. And then, as it winds down, it will go under the part that you've already wound.
Do you ever oil your winders?
Nah, I don't. I've had these on here for about 5 years and I've never oiled them. I want to make sure I get this right here. Yeah, this goes under, but it's a little, there it is. I want you to see where it's going. See, now it's going under that. So it ends up pulling up and pulling down at the same time on the extruding string. So the extruding string has a wind underneath it and a wind over top of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you really need. So I'm tuning it a little sharp just to let it stretch a bit, and then cutting it. One of the confusing things that I see when I look at the online things, these luthiers, they got something on a tabletop, and they just put it in and they wind it around the peg like that, and then they put a drill on it and go zzz,
Oh, you're right.
and it's like, well, what was that? You know, I don't have a drill. And they just wind it around the peg. Well, I guess that works if you do, 30 times a day, but I do this once a month. So I'm unwinding it to a certain point. When it gets loose enough, I just pull it off. And you can see it just pulls right out.
I put mine a little closer to the headstock so it's not so much tension, it's so much leverage. I don't think it really makes much difference.
I don't follow you. Sorry.
The further this sticks out, the more this is toward the top, the more leverage is going to be pulling on it. Whereas
Yeah.
the more it's at the base, the less leverage.
Yeah, I've heard that. So somebody once told me wind a lot of winds on these strings so that the break angle is stronger. I don't actually.
Yeah,
I'm not that sensitive a person.
hard to get it wrong.
Yeah, I don't. As long as you get it in right, you can hardly do it wrong. So then with these color-coded strings, the next set begins with a black string. That much I have memorized.
And they've got it on the package, they've got the color code.
They have it color-coded. This is just Dario that does this. But it is helpful, actually.
Can I look at the package?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, take it.
Are these your medium strings?
Yeah, these are balanced tension mediums, which means a regular medium set is a certain low to high number. These from low to high, oops, there it goes.
Yeah, these are 13.5.
13 and a half at the bottom. Often the bass string will be a 12. So this is 13 and a half.
That trash?
Or I mean at the top, rather. Yeah. So if you want to clean your guitar, the time to do it is when you change your strings. Take off all the strings, so you've got the neck exposed and you can wipe down the guitar. But I usually just do a string at a time. It's just easier to kind of get, keep them organized.
And there's no reason to go out toward the end or low to high or high to low?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, if you're working on a guitar, you got the strings off anyways. So the amount of tension on the guitar, it's not crucial. So again, I'm kind of pushing whatever you call this thing, down into the hole, making sure that it kind of pulls up loosely against the pin. And then it's going to break over the saddle. And then repeat the wind business. So this ends up being, I'm going to give this a little bit extra so you can really see how the winds work. So see a little more than a finger's worth. I don't know, 2 fingers worth maybe. Yeah. So I'm going to go this part here in my hand. That's going to go over the extruded part. This is the part to watch for because it's going to spring around and begin to seat it. Now, good, this is doing that. Sometimes the string will move down here at the bridge and it'll kind of get tight and feel like it's loosening and getting tight again. So this will be just about enough to go under. not worried about it being really in tune yet. I'm getting it in the ballpark. Then cut it close. One thing you can do is make sure these aren't sticking straight up, because they can hurt you. Now, for the other side, it's just in reverse, whatever that means. You just unwinding it. So yeah, back, front to back to loosen it, but then back to front to tighten it.
Kind of the opposite of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, because you're loosening it by going right.
I guess
Maybe
so.
clockwise right now.
I don't. Everybody learns differently, and I drive. Speaking of Lucy, I drive Lucy crazy because I have no method to speak of. It's just habit. So, yeah, this one's easy. Sometimes though, they really do get stuck, and that's when having a bridge puller can make a real difference. So that string is on the floor. Could you hand me that one? Thank you.
You think I should keep recording, or I think we've seen?
No, you should record this one because these are going to go in a different direction
Okay, good point.
As I-
Good point.
as I wind it.
Yeah.
Better to show you than to try to tell you. So, I probably mentioned, I put about 4 different kinds of bridge pins in this guitar over the years. These right now are bone. It's got a bone nut and bone bridge pins and a bone saddle. I like that. It vibrates well.
Does changing that change the original quality, or?
It can improve it considerably. The saddle and the nut that came on this was a plastic material called corian, and it's hard, but it's not as hard as bone, so it doesn't vibrate as well. So from inside to outside, and I'm winding it down. Now I'm turning it so that it winds around and pulls from the center to the outside. And again, the first one goes over the extruded part of the string. Let me set it up here so I can just do it more comfortably. See, I don't understand the need for the winder because this is not hard to do.
Yeah, especially if you're not doing wrapping around and around and around.
Exactly, you
just gotta
don't.
do it like a few.
It takes like 2 or 3 winds to get it on.
End up with a stack of like 5 or 6 lines.
Yeah.
Every time.
And as hard as I play, it doesn't come undone. So that's it. You can see here, it's just beginning to go under. There's one under it, the extruded part, and one over the extruded part. That's ideal.
But it wouldn't hurt anything to go one more.
No, wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
No, and give yourself more than you need rather than less, because that's, you want it to at least try to catch let it pull on itself. So I'm doing like what, 10, 12 winds or twists to get the string loose. It's not much. So this is pretty boring. No, I just stuck myself under my thumbnail. Yeah, and the thing is, this was too tight to.
Well, that was one
That was the one I just did. I was talking instead of thinking. So okay, this is good.
Yeah.
I'll show you what I'll do with this. What I'll do.
It just popped out on its own?
No, I dumbly pulled it out.
Oh.
So I'm gonna give it a little slack.
Oh, you pulled it.
This is the kind of stuff that can happen. And drink the wine afterwards, that's what I tell you. So, It's loose enough to I just pulled out the pin that I just put in. I wasn't thinking, I was talking instead of thinking. Oh, I did that, yeah, it'll bleed in a minute. It'll bleed in a minute, yeah. So then I'll have blood on whatever I touch. Yeah, yeah. So, I gotta make it loose enough to just push back down in the hole. And of course, I'm being filmed while this happens, so that adds to the drama.
That's good, because then, you know.
Then what?
Well, it's good for us to see.
Yeah, good for you.
Blood on guitar.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm just pushing it back in as if I were beginning from scratch. So now it's in, so now I'm gonna wind it back up. And because I didn't unwind it very far, I just rewind it the way that it was. I didn't take it all off, I just rewind it the way that it was. Now, the crucial thing here, this is actually a good point, you gotta put it in the nut slot and make sure that where it goes over the bridge is actually in the sort of slot that's in the bridge. There will be slots in your bridge over time. I've got
Yeah, I can see that.
I've got two here actually. One where it goes in and one where it tends to land when I hit it too hard. So if it's in the right slot, that'll be good. So we're just about ready to. Okay. Now we've got two more strings. Probably good to keep the camera on because who knows what's going to happen next. Two more strings and
Make something really good so it goes viral when I put it on YouTube.
oh yeah, this would be great. Bleeding yet? Yes, I am. I'm bleeding. There's the blood.
Yeah, there we go. I just stabbed myself on an old one. I clipped it.
Yeah,
It hurt like
never
hell.
fails. Yeah, it does.
It really hurts for a long time.
Very sharp.
It's like
So,
getting-
again, I'm pushing it down and I'm catching it against the pin as I pull. And it'll continue to pull as I tighten it down. But I'm just getting it in enough to make it be here. Oh, and it falls on the floor, of course. It's best not to do this when people are watching. Because everything goes wrong. So, again, I'm pulling it up to where I've got a little bit of slack, and then I'm beginning to wind it. The part in my hand will go over the extruded part of the string. I don't know if extruded is the right word, but that's what I've been saying, and I'm going to stick to it until I'm done. So it goes over it first, and then it's going to go under it. So what I'm doing here is, because I know it's going to go under, I'm pushing it down so that when this comes across, it will go over. If you have a partner who doesn't like to change strings, you get a lot of points for doing this.
You're that all of a sudden you're going to be changing my.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And the best way to do that is when they come home from wherever, you say, "Hey, I changed your strings for you."
Why did you do that?
No, that never happens. It's like, "Thank you, I hate to change strings." Lucy bought a new guitar half a dozen years ago and has never once changed the strings on it. So,
Just the laundry.
yeah, no, I do that too. Okay, so this one is perfect. It goes over and then under. So, I'll get the one more and then we'll tune up. Could you? Oh, here. So I've been talking, but this takes 20 minutes. And it's really good not to rush when you're doing this, because it's just hard enough that you can mess it up and And I keep 3 or 4 sets of strings around all the time, so that I don't run out. And also, if I mess it up, I've got a whole set of strings to work from. That's tight.
Do you ever change individual strings, or is it always as a set?
It's always a set. If you have a thing going on where your strings are breaking, chances are you've got a problem with the nut, and it's breaking across the nut too sharply, and that you can get the nut filed down and fixed. So this is the last one. I watched a video of a guy more compulsive than me who wanted his pegs, his tuning pegs, to be completely lined up when he was done. So he figured out how to. Yeah, it's weird. It was weird. I mean, I saw no gain from all that work. Yeah, and over time he'd figure out exactly where to begin it and how much to put in so that his strings could be complete. And then he'd have to tune them, and they'd get out of whack. But it's a nice time to relate to your guitar, actually. I mean, I love doing this.
Nice time to oil everything.
Yeah, there's not much to oil.
No, oil the surfaces, clean them up.
Yeah, just wipe them down. Get the schmutz off of it.
Makes the guitar happy.
Yeah.
Also
So
makes
this
the
goes
little
over.
scratches disappear.
Oh, well. I got plenty of scratches. So the extruded part has 1 over and 1 under. If you see that, you've done it right. Then as it goes in, make sure you're placing it in the slot so that it doesn't get into some other slot. One thing that can happen if you put it in the wrong slot, you can put a bend in the string before you get it tightened down. Then you got problems. I did that a couple of times ago. I managed somehow to bend the string before I put it on. Right around in here, the string was bent, and it never quite straightened out. So every time I tried to fret it, it kind of caught on my hand. And one time I did it down here, which was a real pain, because where it bent, especially on a wound string, the pick hits that bent part. Okay, so this is pretty much in place. This video, you're gonna watch this once and then get.
You know, Richard, this is all on YouTube.
Well, this is on YouTube, but this is not on YouTube.
No, it is on YouTube. I looked for ones to show you guys,
Yeah.
and it's either people that do it wrong, or luthiers who do it with a drill. So
I think that perpendicular whole line thing is a great idea. And I think I've heard the ones I saw online.
they all line up, and then they go to the next
Yeah,
one.
but
That makes
that's
sense.
where I get confused. I start winding the wrong direction and I
Yeah.
get all screwed up.
So that's it.
Okay.
There's nothing
All right. Well, thank you
more
for
to
that.
it. And then you got to give yourself a little time to